Go Bantina, si, go Bantin. Si, go Bantina, si, go Bantin. Silindeli pendulo. Tshela noThambo benoluthuli baqeda uzibusa ezweni. Silindeli pendulo ngeke sabashaya thina singangeyaya. Siyaya, siyaya.
Nayisa sobheki
Siyaya, siyaya.
abafana bonke
Siyaya, siyaya.
abafana bonke
Siyafika nemiza phesheya.
bayambiza welphesheya
Sinsizwa salali no
inkosi bayibiza phesheya. That I knew the different characters of the ants and the cockroaches.
My name is Mumtu Nxumalo. The actual name is Timothy Nxumalo, but Mumtu is a family name that is popular, is known. I am 64 years old. I was born on August the 5th, 1957. I'm an activist. I'm a politician. I'm a musician. I'm a writer. I've written books. I have CDs that I've produced. I belong to the group called Robben Island Singers. If you go to the website, you'll find it there on our website. I also belong to another group of musicians called Le Romulus Chaba, meaning a Spear of the Nation. On the ANC rallies at the stadium, we perform with our combat uniform. That's our group. My politics started here. I've brought you here today in Chesterville, where I was born and bred, because it is where I learned a lot of things. My eyes got opened, my political eyes got opened here. We started distributing pamphlets. We attending rallies. I remember when I was very young, there was a Frelimo rally in 1974 at the Caris Fountain. We went there when the police disrupted that rally with dogs. People were beaten by dogs. We ran all over in all directions. 1975, there was a bus boycott around Durban. We're sending flyers and pamphlets telling people not to go to work. It was a bus strike. But in 1976, I took a conscious decision that no, now I'm leaving the country. After the students' uprising, remember the 1976 uprising, the popular uprising, where students were killed in numbers. Because I was still a student at that time. I was at the high school. And I was also part of the student leadership. There was an organization under the Black Consciousness, because the ANC was banned at the time. It was operating underground. It was called SASM, South African Student Movement. In our schools, high schools and secondary schools, universities, they had SASO, and the elderly people, they had BPC, Black People's Convention. I left the country, I went to Swaziland, I joined the ANC there, where I started to know more about politics. But the ANC encouraged me, but they advised me to go to school because I was still young. But I refused. I said, look, I want to get a gun, I want to go to the army and come back to shoot the Boers that were killing us, the soldiers. And it is where my life started, where I got politically motivated. But from there, I went to other countries, Zambia, Angola, and other countries, where I did my military training. But as I've said, I'm an activist, a writer, a poet, a singer. I do a lot of things. Even at this age, I'm still doing it, because I'm having this book called Nothing Can Stop Us. It is in Zulu, it was translated, and I'll be having another book next week called Still We Rise. I'll be going to Pretoria on the 31st and the 1st of April for my book launch. And I'm also writing poetry. I have my manuscript here, which is still on the printing stage, because I also write poems. And also I'm getting motivated. Each time something happens, I take my pen and a paper. on a black and white, I jot down something. When I left the country, I've said I joined the ANC. I underwent the military training. I was trained in Angola and other countries. After my training, I came back because when we were going through the ANC, it was underground. We'll go from one country to the next. You'll never be told until we are left in that country. And we had our pseudonyms that we used. After training, I was given a mission. I came back to South Africa to train people and fight because remember my aim was to come and fight back. Then I trained some people. I had some units that I trained. Then we got arrested. Then we were charged for treason and terrorism. Then the time it was under Section 6, it was called Terrorism Act. I was sentenced to 22 years on Robben Island. But I stayed 13 years. So on my stay in Robben Island, I learned a lot of things because I met the ANC leadership, Nelson Mandela, Sirkissoon, Robben, Wilton Mqwaya, and many others. Even Tabo's father. I shared good moments with him, learning politics. He was also playing a guitar since I was a musician. We also played guitars together with Robben. We used to call him Warm Gov. His popular name. And I came back here when I was sentenced in the island, because the island was a microcosm of South Africa. We had people from all over South Africa. A lot I learned there to interact with other people, to mingle even with other political organizations, because besides the ANC, there was PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress, there was AZAPU, Black Consciousness Movement under PPC, there was Unity Movement. There were a lot of other organizations, even Abduza, the under Unity movements that were arrested in the 60s. Because most of the people were elderly people there who were serving life sentences. We found them there, but we learned a lot and we got politically motivated. The most memorable moment is when I met Nelson Mandela in person. Because when we grew up, we heard about Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, but I wanted to see this man. Who is this Nelson Mandela? When I met him, he was very impressive old man. And what is memorable that he knew all of us on the island. Because when I met him for the second time, I thought he has forgotten about my name. He knew my name, where I come from. Boss, he will ask you where you come from, or tell him Chesterville. He will ask me about the AWG champion and who was part of the ICU. He knew everything about Mkumban and Ketomena strikes. So we discussed with him. That was the most memorable because I spent time with him. For the first time, I said, no, now at least I know the ANC. After meeting him, and also met other leaders, but that was the most memorable day of my life on the island. We only waited and suspected it would be released when there were talks. Remember, there was Groote minutes in Cape Town that they had negotiations. There were also Pretoria minutes in Pretoria. There was also Kempton Park negotiations. So during those negotiations, it was clear that it will be released at any time. But since the process of negotiation was taking place worldwide, remember that in the 1985, the world was led by the Soviet Union, the progressive world. One of the presidents that came the time after Chernenko, it was Mikhail Gorbachev. Spoke of the perestroika and the glasnost, that now we must negotiate, we must not fight, there must be the end of wars. We must take all these armaments and the weapons. Instead of killing people, we must feed the people, build houses, give them clothing. But it was a turning point that the world is now turning. We prefer to deal with our problems through negotiation table. So that South Africa was not immune from that because we are part of the global world. We knew that South Africa now, there will be negotiations. So when people were visiting Mandela in prison, coming to delegations to talk with him. It was clear that we were going to get released. But the Rivonia trialists were released in 1987. Then we waited for our moment. That's why we were released in 1991. Democracy we all expected, but because they say the ultimate end of all wars is negotiations. Even the Second World War, there was a League of Nations that was established. People negotiated after slaughtering each other. Even after the Second World War, there was a United Nations that was formed, people had to negotiate. So we knew that democracy is built on negotiations and compromises. So when we got released, I felt that I must be part of democracy, of this democracy, since it was something new and very unusual. Our big challenge was that the apartheid regime was not prepared to negotiate because they were killing people. There were massacres all over. There was Buipatong massacre, Pietermaritzburg massacre, all over the country. And you hear that people have been massacred. There were vigilante groups that were supported by the apartheid. Now I wanted to have this democracy implemented. But we felt we must lay a fertile ground for democracy. And we started negotiations with township gangs that were fighting. But I felt I must take part in this democracy because one, I'm a revolutionary. I fought to change the world. Secondly, I know the negotiation skill. I have negotiation skills. I should make this democracy work. We tried our best, but even though the apartheid regime was not prepared, but Mandela and de Klerk were at the forefront of this negotiation post. They were giving directions all the time. Though Mandela would blame de Klerk that he's not playing his role. But finally, the democracy succeeded. I felt that I'm part because I participated in the structures. When the ANC was unbanned and we could openly talk about the ANC inside the country, which before it couldn't happen because we had to leave the country. I felt this is a start of democracy, but I felt that democracy must grow. And we also read a lot of material because I was also teaching the political people and running political classes. I read about democracies in other worlds, in other parts of the world, how democracies work. So we tried our best to apply democracy in South Africa, but we felt no one on top of it. The songs were a depiction of a specific era. I remember there's a song during there's a song in the 1920s, 1930s, when people were still crying for land. It was called Sikhalela Izolagiti. They used to say, Sikhalela Izolagiti, Sikhalela. Others were crying for our country. Lona elathathwa ngabokala jana. That was taken by the white people. Then it was say all national groups should combine Zulu, Sotho, Xhosa. They say Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, Hlanganani. Others they must come together. So there's a song that was depicting a certain era. But there are also songs that we're saying now want to fight. But we're waiting for an instruction, waiting for an answer. Song in the mid-50s when the Freedom Charter was drawn. The period was called the Roaring 50s, the era of the Roaring 50s. There were also songs there that we used to sing there, like saying they must tell Tambo, Oliver Tambo and Luthuli to stop all this that was taking place in the country. Then the song was in Zulu saying, Chelanu Tambo, benolthuli baqeda uzibuse ezweni. Then they would say, Silindele impendulo. Others were waiting for the answer. So those songs used to sing on the island, even the songs of the army, of the fighting now when we took up arms, because the apartheid regime could not listen to us. In the 60s, they banned all organizations. Mkondo Wesize was born. Then there was a song like Take Over the Castro Way, because Fidel Castro had taken over in Cuba in 1959. To say, take over, take our country, the Castro Way. Then those songs used to sing them. Then they said they took Mandela and gave us puppets, take our country, the Castro way. So those songs that we used to sing in the island that were depicting serious and different pictures and eras, they were keeping us going. But besides the struggle songs, we also had songs that were sung in South Africa, like cultural songs like the click songs, like ordinary songs that were just talking about our situation in South Africa, which was mainly rock, pop. Since I was playing a guitar, we had a band in the island that used to sing. I mean, used to play, and some would be singing. In every quarter, there were concerts in the island, in the sections, because we're staying in sections. So that the music kept us going, not only the political music, but even the folk songs, songs that are sung in the country, the old songs that were depicting who we are as South Africans. We used to sing those songs. That was coupled with political education and the political and the academic education. So that kept us going. It was songs, politics, and academic. So those three were keeping us going on the island until we got released. 1994 was a watershed in our struggle, because part of our fighting, we had rights. I mean, a right to vote. When I went to vote for the first time in my life, I felt I've achieved something, because I remember that ever since 1652, when Jan van Riebeeck came to South Africa, and the Anglo-Boer War and the Union of South Africa and the taking over of National Party in 1948 under Hendrik Verwoerd, people wanted to vote, and they were killed solely for that reason. So when there was time to vote in 1994, I felt good. I said, no, now we're reaching a change. I felt now as voters, we have a say in South Africa. I felt being a struggler and a freedom fighter and a revolutionary, I now have a say in my own country. And when Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as a president, I felt, now this is the old man I met in Robben Island that I spent time with. I was so happy because I felt South Africa will take another 10 now to solve our problems in a peaceful process. But the vote of 1994, I felt that now I'm part of democracy, that South Africa will never be the same again. Hey, the current state is not good. One, it's toxic, and I don't think it's what we fought for. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things. There is corruption. There is killings of people. There are investigations. I mean, if you compare now from 1994, it's a different country. A lot of things are going wrong. There are drugs. There's right-wing hit squads. People are disappearing. In fact, we are going to pre-apartheid, to pre-democracy era. I feel that it is not what we fought for. What is happening now is not what we fought for. But I believe as time goes on, things will become normal. But things don't change on themselves, on their own. We must influence change. And I'm part of the influencers. I'm part of the regional task team of eThekwini. We'll be having a conference very soon. When we have a new leadership, we'll be influencing branches of the ANC and people in the community. Because I was also elected in my Ward 27 as part of the Ward committee that running the municipality, have a say in the lives of people, not only ANC members, even people that are not ANC. But what is important is that the ANC was fighting not for members of the ANC, but for the whole of South Africa, the ANC and the non-ANC. And when we say we want people to have better lives, this is our chance to make better lives for all. But now that I'm part of the Ward committee, I feel some changes I will implement or I will influence the powers that be to implement some of the decisions that some people in power are not willing to implement. The relationship was there, but the way they were so busy, they were all over. Particularly Mandela was not only busy in South Africa, in the entire world. He was, we had less time to see him, unlike on the island that we were with him all the time. But the relationship was still there because I remember they came to Chesterville. Mandela came to Chesterville with Sisulu. He recognized me immediately. I thought he had forgotten because he goes all over. And they were coming with a function, I think it was a June 16 event. And they went to the acres, Heroes Acre there. They laid flowers, some wreath-laying ceremony for people that died on the struggle. So I felt good, and people were asking, hey, Mandela. I said, yeah, I was with him on the island, and Sisulu was the most senior. He's the one that came. In fact, he came to this house. He sat on the sofa there. He asked for water, and we spoke with him. We had old memories on the island. He was reminding me of some stuff on the island. And we spent time with him. And people were surprised, saying, how do I know Sisulu? But we had the relationship was still good, just that they were busy. And we were also busy on the country because we were negotiating, we were stopping wars. There was tax violence, there was internecine violence, there was political violence, there was crime, there were a lot of things that was taking place. But the relationship with the leadership was still good. It's just that there was less time to sit down and interact because we're building South Africa. But we're always reminded that look, we're building South Africa to make South Africa a better place for all. With the ANC, I'm a member of the ANC in good standing. I'm a leader for eThekwini. I'm part of the regional task team. We're waiting for the conference in a few weeks to come. We feel that maybe after the election, then we'll be running branches because I'm leading the ANC eThekwini, and we have 111 branches, or the biggest region in South Africa, with 111 branches. Even the KZN is the biggest province with membership. But I feel in the ANC I'm contributing because one, I'm teaching politics. I run political classes with branches. All the 111 branches, I'm running political classes with them. I'm also in the branch general meetings. I get sent by the province to make them elect their leadership. Even the councillors that were elected, I was part of that process. I think I'm part of the ANC, not just a relationship, but part of the ANC, and I'm part of the implementation. And there's nothing as good as being part of the implementation process. Yes, we have an organization called ARTLC, African Religious and Traditional Leaders Council. Before it became ARTLC, it was South African Religious Council. It was NIXA. It has undergone a metamorphosis through changes on the administration. But this one, it combines both culture, traditional and religious. And in this organization, I'm a chairperson of the province, KwaZulu-Natal province. And I feel I'm on the ground because I interact with every person, with the Sangomas, Nyangas, religious people, traditional leaders, Marcos and the chiefs and Nzindona, the headmen. I feel on the ground, I'm there, and I'm putting a lot of influence being a chairperson of this structure, because all the time we have meetings, we get invited to talk about this ARTLC, and it is a ball change. In fact, it's a game changer because we are directly linked to the people, and we're not talking about the ANC, we're talking about people, and people have their issues as communities, whether they are religious or traditional, because in life, it's either you are religious or traditional, if you are a normal person, unless you are not normal. But I'm able to deal with those issues on a daily basis as a chairperson of this ARTLC group. It makes me feel that now, I get humbled, and it makes me feel I'm contributing to the South African landscape, because we must change it to suit everybody. So this ARTLC is giving me more work and more thinking, and I'm consulting a lot, because we're working as a team, not working alone. As a team person, my team is good. I'll say we're doing very well. That's why we get invited by the highest office of the land, office of the president. We're in Cape Town, invited there. And this week, somebody from the office of the president, Mondli Kongubele, will be coming to KZN to meet us, because the office wants to support us. They want to work with us, because they feel we're a vehicle that will solve some of the challenges we have in South Africa. Yes, South Africa, it's a multicultural society. Being a multicultural society, it has a lot of challenges. The gender-based violence and femicide, because it doesn't end on the gender-based, even femicide and families, because we include the femicide part. I drew up a document for our structure. I've articulated issues there, enumerated what has to be done. But the influence on gender-based violence, the government was happy in receiving that document, because we're not dealing with women being attacked, children. We're dealing with all the vulnerable groups. Because some people mistaken gender-based violence as related to women and children only. Even men that are being abused. It talks to everyone. But the document that we have put together is putting the details, how do we deal with it. We don't react, because part of the problems that people have in South Africa is to react to gender-based violence, which is reactive, but we need to be proactive before it happens. We have programs to how to bring a girl child until she's a woman, but we never had programs how to bring a boy child. So we're putting that together, that no, let's also bring boys, because if you say these boys are violent, they grew up being violent, and they were never taught anything. They see the gangs in the street. I remember when I was in Cape Town, I had workshops with the youngsters. They used to tell me that in their life, it's the first time they hear about the Robben Island and the struggle. And they say in their life, they knew when they grow up, they must be gangsters or they must be a gang leader. That was their life because of the confinement. Because what happened, we have the legacy of apartheid, of confining people to a specific environment. When the person grows up, he or she knows that environment, nothing else, unless the person gets exposed. But the gender-based violence in South Africa is not on the increase as such, but it has been happening for years. It was never reported. Now the reporting has increased. People are reporting this. That's why it looks as if it has increased. But if you look at the statistics before, it was happening, nothing. A person will die, will be abused. Who will say that? And some people were afraid to talk. But now we're teaching them to talk. They must talk. They must say what doesn't satisfy them, what is harassing them. So the gender-based violence is not something for now. It will take time, but as a process, we'll work with it. Maybe it will take between 10 and 20 years until we grasp the whole concept and apply it in the whole country. And it will decrease tremendously. But it's going to be a process. It won't be an easy thing, because it does not need police or the army. It needs everybody. It needs the pastors, the community people, social workers, ordinary people. But people had this mentality that no, the police must deal with it. But as we have educational programs on gender-based violence, as we have awareness programs, people are learning now that no, they are also responsible, because the future of the people is not on government. They have their own future in their own hands, but they are not aware. They must be made aware. Otherwise, gender-based violence is one of the good programs that our structure is dealing with. We're running it as a program. It's a very extensive program. And we need to have it, the events and the awareness programs almost every month to conscientize people. Because we cannot do it once a year. Say, no, this is 16 days of activism. Because we are blaming the government when they have 16 days only once a year. People are not harassed 16 days once a year. They're harassed every day. So it's a daily thing that we must deal with it as the activists, both cultural and religious activists, political. Because, as I say, I was a political activist, but as I'm growing up, interacting with people, I'm becoming more than political activist, being a religious activist, being part of the religious sector, and also a cultural activist because I'm dealing with the traditional issues. The youth culture is vast and very broad, but I do not think our youth understands that, because people think culture is dancing, singing, and drinking. It goes beyond that. I mean, it encompasses education. People must be taught. I mean, education is part of culture. And people must know there are people that are leading. In other words, there are role models, that who's their role models. And our youth is in a state of confusion these days because they think after dancing, singing, and drinking, then there's a cultural event. And we always in these events, cultural events, say, look, it's more than that. Culture is very broad because it involves even the language, geographical situation. It's something that has evolved over the years. And if you say we're multicultural or a multicultural society, we must reflect that we're multicultural. All cultures should be reflected. But as I say, it is more than singing and dancing and drinking. It's more than that. Education in the main, because the education plays a huge role in people's life, and even the awareness programs, boss. We always emphasize in the young people that people must be aware of some things, that this is part of our culture. But besides that, we must create what is called a South African culture, because people have adopted other cultures from other countries. I mean, like America, they like American culture, which is foreign, but they like it. Some are conservative, they like the British culture. While the French culture is in the minority parties there. Some have Indian culture, Pakistan culture. But all these cultures, at the end of the day, we must build one culture, South African culture. We bring all these cultures together. Then we will be understanding culture. But we can't do that without being educated on it, but without being trained, without being made aware, have awareness programs. This is what we were discussing the other day, that the youth must know what is their culture, South African culture. But it will take us time because they don't understand. They like drinking. I mean, most young people drink a lot. They dance. After drinking and dancing, they think it's culture, and they have these traditional clothes. They think it's culture. That is part of culture, but it's not enough. We must go beyond drinking, beyond dressing traditionally, beyond dancing and singing. But to get educated, we must be made aware of things that are part of culture. Even small things, religion, traditions, all those things, they must be put together. This is what I understand what culture is. That's why the youth has to be taught. But I'm sure they don't have time because we are trying our best. But at some stage, we will win the day because we have the youth organizations. Ours is to introduce this to the youth organizations. So it's easy when the young people teach other young people. Because with us, they think we're coming to discipline them. But if they talk among themselves as young people, it becomes easier. So we train the trainers that must train others. The vision has not changed because I want to change the system. The system has taken different turns. When you grow up, during the 70s, we're fighting Bantu education. when we were taught to all subjects in Afrikaans. We were fighting apartheid system. When apartheid was scrapped in 1994, we have the new terrain of struggle now. We have the unemployment, we have poverty, we have inequality. But I'm still, me being a revolutionary, I must address myself to that. I still want to deal with these issues, because we have new issues, because people being unemployed, they resort to a lot of wrong things. Because of poverty, people resort, take the prostitutes. I asked these girls who are selling their bodies, why to sell your body? They said, no, they don't have money. They don't have work. And you find that some of these evil things that they do, that's why in my book that I'll be releasing soon, they say evil thoughts and thoughts of evil. I've mentioned some of these aspects, that these triplets, poverty, unemployment and inequality, creates a lot of problems within society, not only the young people. And it makes us to be hands-on in changing the society. And others must address this, must address poverty, must address unemployment, must address inequality. But I'm still part of changing the society. That's why I'm saying, I'm not saying now it's over. All is well. No, all is not well. We need to do more. But we feel our small contribution will make South Africa better. Now, my new book still will rise. I'm going to Pretoria this weekend for the launch. After the launch, it will be on the libraries, most libraries. I'll make a print. I must get a sponsor just to print more copies. I'll send it to the bookshop, CNA, Adams and Griggs, all the bookstores, or not, let me say most of the bookstores. I will send it there. But for now, I'm going for a launch. I was told that I'll only get 5 copies for a launch, and look at the 5 copies, correct some mistakes. Then I'll start a new journey. Because it is not only that one, still we rise. We have This World, a poetry book that I have written, This World, which I believe it talks to a lot of things. And after the launch, the same processes will be done, that I'll send it to the bookshops. But besides that, that's why I'm saying the 2 books are complete, Still We Rise and This World. Even this is a Zulu book, the third one. But there's also the other one, a religious book, that I'll be addressing the religious community, that is titled Evil Thoughts and Thoughts of Evil, which will be very interesting, because the people that have shared some light about the book, they wanted it now. I said, no, I'm still going to print it. I'm still going to launch and print it. But my books will be available, because I believe we're in the struggle of ideas. In the struggle of ideas. It's another terrain of struggle, dealing with ideas, influencing good ideas and destroying bad ideas or the old ideas. Because to get something new must destroy the old. That is a nature of society. Every life, to get something new, you destroy the old. So all the old ideas that are corrupt, are wrong, are archaic, we must introduce the new ideas. Because we replace something. We don't just destroy things, then we leave it there. It's like ending violence. We must create programs for the young people. When you say there's no violence, create programs. Get them involved in sports, in music, in arts, in dancing. But you cannot end violence and keep quiet, but they'll go back to violence. This is how it operates. But my new books will be available soon. I think this is end of March. April, May, by June, they will be in the bookshops. I can safely say that, provided I get some people to assist in printing more copies, because I want people to read in the struggle of ideas. I've got a lot of quotations, but I'll have a short one. There's a quotation that I learned from the old man when I was in the island. The father of Thabo Mbeki, Gov and Mbeki, was called Womkov. when he wrote anything, he will say, you missed this one, you missed them all. This is what I want to tell the people, that you missed this one, you missed them all. You missed this message, you missed them all. Because there are a lot of messages. But I want people just to grasp what we are bringing. Because in this world, this book called This World, it talks about a lot of things. We say this world, in this world, it's the same topic. This world, in this world. Talk about poverty, talk about religion, talk about hunger, talk about corruption, a lot of things. But the message is contained there in the form of poetry. I would like the young people to read poetry and to write their own poems, because people have talents, but they don't get direct directions and also good guidance. I want them to get guided. I'm here to assist them in the days of my life until my last day on this world. That's why I will say in this book called This World, I would love that a lot of people get that book titled This World, in this world. But I'm not saying they must not get other books, but just to spread the message so that people understand where we are. Because part of the problem that people don't understand where we come from, where we are, and where we are going. If people can grasp that where we are and where we are going, we'll have we'll have few challenges or few problems. But people don't know where we are and where we are going. I think this is what I would say in a nutshell.
Take our country the Castro way. I carry Pazuga and automatica. Take our country the Castro way.
Basically, this song, it is devoted to our comrades who died in action, who trained at Zapu camps.
Silindeli impendulo tshela nothambo benoluthuli baqeda uzibuse ezweni. Silindeli impendulo ngeke sabashaya thina singake